I'm Natalie Reyes. I'm 36, a financial planner living in Seattle. My condo isn't massive, but it's mine, bought with years of spreadsheets, sacrifice, and slow growth. It overlooks a quiet park, and every piece of furniture inside was paid in full. I sleep well at night because my numbers line up. My brother Jake. He's allergic to anything with structure. Jake's the type who calls plans, boxes, and routines death traps. He's had more careers than I've had houseplants, yoga instructor, artisan soap maker, part-time creative retreat host. Nothing lasts, but somehow there's always a new phase waiting to be funded by someone else. Usually Dad, sometimes me. Growing up, I used to envy Jake. He was magnetic. Teachers gave him second chances. Our dad praised his vision. I was the one who cleaned up, budgeted, and came through. I got straight A's. He got attention. That dynamic never changed. The last time I bailed him out, it was a $1, $200 shortfall after he invested in some crypto-based wellness retreat idea. I covered it. Told myself it was the last time. It wasn't. Then came the phone call. He was buzzing with excitement. Said he and Eric sold the house, yes, the house their two kids lived in, to buy a van and road school their way across America. He talked about freedom, about living intentionally, about escaping the trap. I just sat there, phone to my ear, staring out at my potted herbs on the windowsill. I couldn't stop picturing Noah and Lily in a cramped van parked behind gas stations. He called it brave, enlightened. I called it something else. He called it freedom. I called it a fire, and I was done being the extinguisher. Jake's been chasing freedom since we were kids. At 10, he decided he'd be a professional guitarist. He made it 3 weeks into lessons before quitting because the teacher lacked soul. Dad bought him a new amp anyway. By 14, it was pottery. He lasted 2 months before smashing his own work in frustration. The kiln exploded, and I was the one scrubbing clay off the garage floor. Then came the healing retreats, Reiki cold plunges, sound baths. Jake floated from one to the next, like enlightenment could be found at the bottom of a kombucha bottle. Each time, Dad would shrug. At least he's trying something. You can't teach passion. I'd come home from my part-time job at the grocery store and find Jake asleep on the couch, half-written vision boards scattered around him. Meanwhile, I was budgeting our mom's prescriptions, doing laundry, and applying for scholarships before I was 16. Dad never asked if I needed help. He assumed I had it covered, and I did, but not because I had help, because I had no other option. In college, it got worse. Jake flunked out sophomore year after following a girl to a surf town in Oregon. Dad drove up to bring him home. I wired the money to fix the busted radiator. "I owe you," Jake texted me. He never brought it up again. Dad used to say Jake had that spark, said I was the anchor. Every kite needs one. It was meant as a compliment. I learned to smile and accept it. But here's the truth. Every mess Jake made, Dad handed me the mop. They sold the house in under 2 weeks. Market was hot, and it went $35K over asking. Jake called it the universe confirming the plan. The plan apparently was to use that money to buy a luxury Sprinter van, customized, of course. Solar panels, bamboo cabinetry, composting, toilet hidden storage under the beds. The works. They posted a video tour online before the build was even finished. Jake narrating, Eric filming. The kids, Noah and Lily, popping in and out of frame like extras. "We're hitting the road full time," Jake said. No more rent, no more bills, no more soul-sucking routine. Just us and the open sky. I stared at the screen phone in hand. No mention of how they'd pay for gas. No plan for medical emergencies. No details on how road schooling would actually prepare the kids for anything beyond YouTube. Dad watched the video too. He sent it to me with a single line. "Proud of your brother. He's doing what I always dreamed of." Of course he was. When I asked if they'd considered at least keeping a small safety net from the house sale, Jake said, "Money's not the point. Nat, it's about freedom. Freedom from what schedules bills, being a present, stable parent. Eric looked uncomfortable the last time I saw him. He said they'd try to take handyman gigs on the road, maybe teach yoga in parks. Jake was more excited about documenting it all for social media. I watched Lily wave goodbye to her treehouse in the backyard, one I helped build. Watched Noah press his hand against the window as they pulled away. They didn't just trade square footage for adventure. They didn't buy a van. They sold their children's stability. Jake's Instagram was a scrapbook of curated bliss, sunsets over desert ridges, Lily meditating on a folded towel beside a lake, Noah holding a stick like it was a magic wand, silhouetted against a red canyon, Eric cooking quinoa in a cast iron skillet over a fire, captions like, "Unlearning everything they told us to believe, and our home has wheels and a heartbeat." It was beautiful. It was also bullsed. They called it road schooling. But when I asked what curriculum they were using, Jake said, "We're following a curiosity-led model. The world is their classroom." Except curiosity didn't teach math, and the world didn't explain grammar. He'd brush me off. "They'll be fine, Nat. Kids learn more from real life than they ever do in a classroom." When I offered to mail Lily some books, he said, "Let her discover learning naturally." Naturally. From what trail signs, postcards? Meanwhile, Eric sounded thinner every time we spoke, polite but frayed. He mentioned campground fees being more than expected. Their solar panels weren't strong enough to power the fridge. Propane for heating was adding up. And yet the photos kept coming. Smiling selfies with layered filters, inspirational quotes laid over mountainscapes, short videos of the kids doing science experiments by throwing rocks into streams. Dad was eating it up. "This is what I wanted to do when I retired," he texted after one post. "Your brother has guts." No. Jake had likes. Jake had denial. What he didn't have was a plan or a backup, or even a clear sense of what would happen when the money ran out. But every day that highlight reel rolled on. The van had bamboo ceilings, but the foundation was paper thin. It happened outside Elko, Nevada. The engine didn't sputter, it seized. Eric had warned Jake about the noise weeks ago, but Jake said it was just a hum and the van would heal itself once we hit open air. It didn't. They limped it into a repair shop off the highway. The verdict, a full transmission failure. 12 grand, no warranty, no fix unless paid up front. Jake didn't call me, he called Dad. And Dad called me. Just for a little while, he said, "They're cold. They're tired. You've got space." I stared at my ceiling. My space was a 2-bedroom condo. One of those bedrooms was my office where I met clients over Zoom. The other was mine. They have 2 kids, Dad. It's not forever, just until they figure things out. I closed my eyes. I could hear Lily's voice in the background. She was crying. "How are they paying for a motel?" I asked. Dad hesitated. I wired them some money. Of course he did. How much, he didn't answer. They sold their house. They bought that van. They chose this. "They're your family," he said. "They need help." "No," I corrected. "They need consequences." That didn't land well. He muttered something about selfishness and hung up. 10 minutes later, Jake texted me directly. "Hey, Dad says we can crash at your place just until the van's fixed." No question mark, no request, just assumption. That night, I sat on my couch in silence staring at the framed photo of Noah and Lily from 3 Christmases ago. My home had always been my haven. Now apparently, it was plan B for someone else's chaos. My extra bedroom became the hill they chose to die on. I scheduled the call for 7:00 p.m. Pacific. Dad, Jake, Eric, and I. No kids, no distractions, just truths. Jake joined from the motel's Wi-Fi propped up against a stained headboard, arms crossed like this was some kind of intervention he didn't believe in. Eric looked exhausted, hair unwashed, shirt rumpled. Dad's camera was too low, giving us all a steady shot of his ceiling fan. I didn't bother with pleasantries. "I need to make something clear," I said. "I never agreed to host anyone. Dad told me you were coming before I was even asked." Jake rolled his eyes. "It's not a big deal. We just need a place to land for a bit. The kids can share the office. Eric and I will take the couch. You're talking about 4 people in a 2-bedroom condo where I work full-time from home. That's not landing. That's crashing." Dad cut in. You've always had space, Nat. You've always helped. Exactly, I said. And look where it's gotten us. Eric cleared his throat. I don't think this is the right plan. Jake snapped his head toward him. What Eric looked directly at the screen. We've been bleeding money. The kids are struggling. We're struggling. This whole thing was built on, don't say it, Jake muttered. Hope and hashtags. Eric finished. Silence. I'm willing to help, I said, with first and last month's rent on a real place. Help with budgeting. Job leads. But not by sacrificing my home, my work, or my sanity. Jake scoffed. Unbelievable. You'd rather throw money at it than let us crash on your couch. No, I said calmly. I'd rather help you build something real than enable another fantasy. Dad frowned. This isn't how family treats each other. No, I said, but it's how grown-ups treat failing systems. They expected a rescue. I delivered reality. Later that night, Eric texted me. If the offer still stands, I'd like to talk. We set up a call the next morning while Jake took the kids to the motel pool. Eric looked lighter somehow, like the act of breaking rank had peeled a layer off his chest. I should have said something months ago, he said. I knew the van was a bad idea. I just didn't want to be the villain in Jake's story. You weren't, I said. You were the silence that kept it going. He nodded, taking it without flinching. I'm ready to stop being silent. We spent an hour combing through listings near Elko Nothing Fancy, but clean stable. Rents between $900 and $1,100. I offered to cover the security deposit and first month's rent. Eric didn't argue, just said thank you like he meant it. Next we looked at job boards, construction sites, local electricians needed, seasonal gigs with potential for full time. He bookmarked 3. Promised to call the moment we hung up. I've been thinking about the kids, he said. Noah's afraid to sleep without a light now. Lily flinches every time the van creaks. They need real walls, not some tin box with fairy lights. He leaned forward serious. I don't want to raise them in the middle of someone else's fantasy. I want to raise them in reality. For the first time since all this began, I believe someone was finally choosing them. Start with the job I said. Then, we'll handle the lease. He smiled small but steady. It's weird. I feel like I've finally got tools in my hand again. He wasn't just fixing an engine anymore. He wasn't just repairing wires now. He was rebuilding a life. I drove out to Maple Valley that Sunday. It wasn't planned. I didn't call ahead. I just got in my car and went because if I didn't say what I needed to say face to face, I never would. Dad's house hadn't changed in 10 years. Same creaky front steps, same dusty flag by the garage, same humming fridge that buzzed just a little louder than necessary. He looked surprised when he opened the door, but he stepped aside and let me in without a word. He poured me a cup of coffee, black and too hot, just the way he drank it. You come out to tell me off in person, he asked after a beat. I looked at him. I came because I'm tired. He didn't respond. I'm tired of being the fallback. Of being the one you assume will patch it, carry it, fix it, fund it. Jake makes a mess, and somehow I always end up cleaning it up while you tell me how brave he is. He shifted in his chair. He's your brother. I thought you two had each other's backs. Do you think he's ever had mine that quieted him? I kept going. You didn't just ask me to help, Dad. You handed over my home without asking, like it was yours to offer. He gripped his coffee mug jaw tight. I panicked. I just didn't want to see them stuck. Not the kids. I nodded slowly. You're not wrong to care. But you've confused protecting Jake with enabling him, and you've mistaken my silence for agreement. Then his voice cracked low and uneven. My dad walked out when I was 10, said he'd be back before dinner. Never was. I stared. You never told me that. He nodded. When Jake screwed up when he called, I saw myself. I didn't want to be the guy who left his kid hanging. You didn't leave, I said gently, but you left me holding the weight. He blinked hard, looked at me, really looked. What do you need from me, Nat? And for the first time in decades, I didn't brace for a deflection. For the first time in my life, my father listened without asking me to fix something. They signed the lease on a Wednesday. 2-bedroom garden level just outside Elko, the kind of place no one puts on a postcard beige walls, laminate counters, a view of the parking lot and dumpsters. But it had heat, a working stove, real doors that closed. Eric sent me a photo Lily spinning in the living room, her socks sliding across the carpet, laughing like the space went on forever. Noah sat cross-legged in the corner, lining up his 3 favorite dinosaur toys on the windowsill, careful, methodical. I'd wired the deposit and first month's rent the day before. Eric had hesitated when I offered a grocery stipend, but I reminded him this wasn't about pride. It was about giving 2 kids something resembling normal. He didn't argue after that. Jake was supposed to help with move-in. He was supposed to carry the air mattresses from the motel, help pick up secondhand dishes, maybe hang one of Noah's drawings. He didn't show. Eric said he got a text just before noon. I need time to think. This isn't what I signed up for. No mention of Lily. No mention of Noah. Just silence after that. Eric unpacked quietly. I had a bookshelf from Target delivered. He assembled it that evening alone. The place was bare. But there was food in the fridge, a towel for each person, a heater that clicked on when the temperature dipped below 60. When I video called them that night, Lily held up a crayon drawing she'd taped to her wall. It was a tree branches, wide leaves floating. It's our new yard, she said. I made it so we don't forget green things. Noah leaned into the frame. Aunt Nat, will you help me with my science project? Of course, I said, my throat tightening. Jake had always worshipped the idea of movement, but kids don't grow in motion. They grow in stillness. He wanted the open road. His kids needed a locked door. 3 weeks after move-in, Eric texted me a photo. Lily stood in front of a bulletin board at her new elementary school, beaming. A gold star next to her name, Reader of the Month January. She held up a copy of Charlotte's Web like it was a trophy. She read it 3 times, Eric wrote, and cried every time Charlotte died. 2 days later, he sent another update, this time. Noah in a bright blue jersey, arms outstretched on a grassy field. He joined the local youth soccer league. Eric said he begged to sign up after meeting a kid in their building who played forward. The kids were sleeping through the night again. No more bedwetting. No more panic when the wind howled. Lily taped more drawings to her bedroom wall. Noah asked if he could start a bug collection like a real scientist. When I visited the following weekend, the apartment looked lived in. The bookshelf I'd sent was now half full. The folding table had a plastic tablecloth with handprints in paint. The fridge door was cluttered with magnets and permission slips. Lily hugged me at the door like I'd been gone a year. Noah showed me a rock he found on the walk home from school and asked if it could be from a meteor. Eric looked tired, but in a real-life kind of way, not broken, just busy. He brewed coffee while the kids argued over what movie to watch. It's not perfect, he said quietly, handing me a mug, but it's home, and they're okay. I looked around. A tiny kitchen, scuffed floors, a second-hand couch with one wobbly leg. But there was warmth here. Stability, the kind that doesn't show up in filtered Instagram photos. Their new home didn't have solar panels, but it had homework dinner and peace. It started with a missed call from Dad, then a text. Got time to talk this week, need some help with the 401k. I stared at it for a long moment, not because of the topic he'd never asked for financial advice before, but because of the tone. No judgment, no pressure, just a question. We spoke that Thursday. He had a yellow legal pad covered in notes, most of them in all caps. His voice was gruff, but softer than usual. He asked about rollover options, mutual funds, taxes. I walked him through it patiently like I would with any client. Near the end of the call, he paused. You were right, he said, about Jake, about the whole thing. I didn't say anything, just let him sit in it. I didn't want to see it. I kept telling myself he'd figure it out, that I wasn't doing any harm, helping him get back on his feet. But I was. I was making it worse. I heard the apology under the words, and that was enough. He cleared his throat. Kids look good. Lily's reading now, huh? Yeah, I said. She's actually correcting Noah's spelling homework. He laughed. She gets that from you. We talked 10 more minutes about Lily's school, Noah's soccer games, the weather, no mention of Jake, no defenses, no blame. And when we hung up, I didn't feel drained. I didn't feel like the fixer. I just felt like his daughter. It's funny. Drawing a line saying no, it felt like I might lose everything. Instead, it gave us both space to show up better. He stopped treating me like the family bank and finally saw me as his daughter. Thanksgiving that year looked nothing like the ones we used to have. No polished silverware, no long table set for 12, no centerpiece from a florist. Instead, we squeezed around a folding table in Eric's tiny living room chairs, borrowed from neighbors. Lily had made handprint turkeys and taped them to the walls. The apartment smelled like box stuffing and instant mashed potatoes, but it was warm and full and real. My parents flew in the day before. Dad brought his signature overcooked ham. Mom cried when she saw the fridge covered in the kids' school awards. She didn't say much, just hugged Lily longer than usual and asked if she could help set the table. Jake showed up late. No explanation. He stood in the doorway for a moment like he wasn't sure if he should stay. His face looked older, thinner maybe. He carried a grocery store pie and a stack of paper plates. He didn't look at me right away, just handed the pie to Eric, then knelt down so Lily could launch herself into his arms. "Hi, Daddy," she said. He kissed the top of her head and held her like he hadn't in weeks. We made room for him, not in a grand gesture way, just space, an extra chair, a little quiet. Over dinner, Noah told us about his class play. Lily read a poem she wrote about a house that doesn't roll away. Eric smiled at her like she hung the moon. Jake barely spoke, but he listened, really listened. And when he helped clear the table later, he turned to me in the kitchen and said, "Thanks for what you did." Even if I didn't get it before. I nodded. It wasn't easy, I know he said, but it was right. That night, as I helped Lily tape another drawing to her wall, this one, a house with roots, I realized something I hadn't abandoned my brother. I had rescued what he left behind. He sold his house for freedom. I said no and gave them something better.